Bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.
Welcome again to Chessy Hour. Another week, another batch of things to discuss. Season done, regular season done. All we've got left is the small issue of a cup final, London derby at Wembley. Probably the quietest one to ever happen, but that doesn't make it any less of a big occasion for us. This week, it's myself, Yassi and James, with me. What's going on, mate? You good?
Can't complain, man. Finally, relief, man. Relief after what?
Relief. That is the word.
Restful.
That is the word.
Relief. That's the only thing I could really put. My feeling relief. But yeah, good.
I feel like a combination of the amount of games and the tension of every game made me age about 9 years in the last 6 weeks.
Ugh, man, it's been stress. Absolute stress.
Joe tweets. What's going on? Unknown tweets.
Yeah, good man. Never worried. The prediction came true. Top four. I've been stressed. Won't lie. Past couple of weeks, just watching the games in silence, just in my flat, just like I'm not talking to anyone. If I say something, it's going to alter time, and something's going to happen. Just watching the game, quiet, silence. Yeah, but I'm happy with how it's finished.
Apparently, Jermaine's at the door, so I don't know, Mids, can you let him in?
Yeah. Oh, what? He wants to jump. Okay, Jay.
What? I'm Jermaine. What?
Yeah, just jumped on, no problem.
Yes, Jermaine. Look what?
What's happening, man? Look at the relief on his face.
Look at this. See what we talked about, the stresses of it. That's...
What's going on?
And Palumi, Pels. Listen, Pels, you were getting at me a little bit for the Avi. The only thing I was thinking is, I think you are every bit a tracksuit manager. That's cool. I have never really put you down as a beard man to have that in your locker. Is that
just for like? This is obviously like a projection.
Okay.
It's a 35-year-old
okay.
Pels, you know what I'm saying? So obviously, I'm not sure what my dad's hairline was like, but I've just resigned to, just cutting all off.
Okay.
And then obviously, we've got a bit of a chin strap going on currently, so...
Okay. So what's the plan there? Is there... How are we going to get to... How are we going to get Remain to the
beard oils coming in, so...
Okay.
But how about you focus on yourself? Because you waited for that. I like it though. I rate it.
Do you know? I was thinking, should I ask?
Yeah,
I had to get it off. That's okay. So now, all right. As you might be able to see behind me, anyone locked into YouTube, we're at the very glitzy Chessy Hour Alternative End of Season Awards. All the lads have been voting. We put some stuff out there. I'm not gonna lie to anyone listening and to all the boys in the room, I am sick to death of, I think Mount was player of the year. No, I think Kovacic was player of the year, or maybe Pulisic was player of the year, is actually doing my head in. It's the driest discussion I've ever heard. So I'm hoping we can review our season in our own little way. I've made some questions that were purposely a little bit open, whether you pick a player, whether you pick a team, anything like that. And so... So it's some good stuff in there. I'm looking forward to it. The best thing about putting these questions out, Pels, I know you wanted a bit more regimented instruction, but the best thing about putting these questions out is I got people's personality in the answers, boys. And I'm going to tell you how, okay? Dan gave the most cynical answer for one to watch I've ever heard in my life. We'll get to that. Not a happy boy. Joe sent me about 9 paragraphs because he's thorough.
Everyone's laughing.
Meads is the man who likes the finer things. And is the only one who made biggest flex about him being right about something.
That's confirmed.
And Pels, because he just bloody loves academy football, couldn't bring himself to answer the academy question because they're all his children.
Top of the line. That's what we do.
That's it. And obviously, I think age-wise, don't want to bump into anyone out in Central.
There's a few circles, I'm just...
I hear that. So
can't knock it, can you?
So we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. Listen, that's what we're gonna do. Alternative end season awards. Let's get straight into it. To explain the rules of how this is gonna work. Everybody has had a vote. That vote has become a nomination. If those nominations have meant a majority, that is the winner. We will discuss that winner. If in the event of a draw, a tie, an equal number of nominations, there have to be a bit of a democracy, but I have the deciding vote. And I can be swayed either way, but we'll see how that goes of who comes away with the Chessy Award. Number one, award for the biggest flex of the season. And the nominees are being banned, but still somehow signing Christian Pulisic and Mateo Kovacic on a perm. Good flex. Good flex. I'm always a bit, when people mention, ban last summer. Nomination number 2, for a transfer ban to end up the best thing that's happened to Chelsea Football Club in about 10 years. Nomination number 3, Reece James going up for a header against Burns and dislocating his shoulder. Flex is an interesting one. That's more of assault, but not what I had in mind. Meads being right about Kepa all along is another nomination.
That's a fucking...
And Frank doing the double against Jose is another nomination. Now,
The words were slapping Jose's head twice, by the way.
Slapping Jose's head twice. Right. Now, Joe, I'm going to let you kick this one off in terms of the transfer ban being the best thing to happen to us in very recent time.
Yeah, so for me, the flex was, first of all, losing the best player we've had like over the past 10 years, maybe. The player that the entire club team have been built around, every single title winning side. Probably one of the best players in Chelsea's history. To then have a transfer ban and going back and looking at all of the pundits. I don't care if Chelsea fans predict that we won't do well, but when pundits do it, for me, it's a little bit different. Seeing all of these predictions where I think 3 people on the BBC out of like the 15, 20 people they interviewed had us in the top 4.
And 2 of them played for us.
And 2 of them were massively biased because they were ex-Chelsea. So really one person, like one neutral person, said that we'd finish top 4. To go from that to have all of this young kind of core emerge, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, all these guys emerge. And then it sort of come to this end of season, able to sign Ziyech, jumping in front of Liverpool to get Timo Werner, potentially getting Kai Havertz. The flex for me is we're probably the only club that could have turned that situation into maybe the strongest hand we've had on the table for 5, 6, 7 years. And that for me, that's the biggest flex coming out of this on top.
Big flex. Jermaine, do you want to explain what a wronging you are for that Reece James vote, or like what is that?
Listen, I just remember seeing it happen and thinking, bruv, this guy's a youth, and my man's fucking dislocating big guy's shoulders at him. Like, I just thought to myself, if there was ever a flex, my man Reece James dislocating man's shoulder in a 50-50 is something else, cuz. I couldn't believe it, fam. I was just thinking, this youth's like 19 years old and he's gone up for a 50-50 and fucking got some guy coming off the pitch with a dislocated shoulder.
Welcome to the Premier League.
That was so good. That was so good because Ashley Barnes, I flipping hate him as well. I hate him as a player. He's very dirty. So that one, it was perfect for me. I can't lie. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's what I like. I liked a bit of that stuff.
As you're there, Meads, do you wanna just get on the Kepa thing once more with one more flex?
So unfortunately, I didn't want to be right about Kepa, but you just
had to do it, bro. You just had to do it.
That's my biggest flex because for a number of months now, people have been backing Kepa. They're saying, "Oh, he'll come good." They'll say, "Oh, last season was a great season for him. Like he'll get back to that level." But when we signed Kepa, because I did my due diligence, because again, I'm not going to put my name behind someone if I don't really rate you like that. And then I did my reading. Shout out to StatsBomb, because they had an in-depth article and analysis about him. And they were saying, this guy's a very mediocre youth. So I looked at it, watched a couple games. I'm like, no, was not how. I was shook. I proper said to Dan, I said to Dan, oh, look, we're going to be in big trouble here. This is going to be a bad signing. It's going to be a bad signing. And then our first game against Arsenal, I think he had a shot against Mkhitaryan. Bottom corner. What? You got a hand to it. Full hand to it. Flush.
What?
It was like, what? And I tweeted, as soon as I saw it, I said, this Kepa you is sus. Lo and behold, 2 years later, here we are. And we know what the vibe is. Yeah.
Here we are. But I do have to say, probably the first thing me and Palumi have agreed on in a fair while, our two nominations get Lampard patting Jose's head twice at the double this season to be the biggest flex.
I think that's the biggest. I can't lie. That's definitely. Do you want to know what makes us?
Pels. What was it that brought you to saying slapping his head twice?
It is. I love Jose, like with a large part of my body. I'm not joking. Like it's more than my heart. Like, maybe the whole left side. You know what I'm saying? But the right side, yeah. The right side was so angry when he was talking that stuff in the Man United presser about how he's happy. And I just thought, this is just a repeat of the lies like he told, man. Do you know what I'm saying? I felt it in my heart. And then he had the cheek.
Pels. What age were you when Jose joined?
Oh, no, I was young, like 6, 7.
So that's why I think these lies might have hit deeper.
Yeah, so when he come back, like the return, the happy one, when he said he's a happy one and that, I was just gassed, like mind blowing. Do you get what I'm saying? Obviously now he's showing his true colours. I've learned what Jose is like. So the digs about defensive football under Conte, all that little stuff, you know, we don't really get him back. We haven't got him back yet, but you know, Lamps did it. It was okay. Fantastic.
I mean, that's some stuff we should probably talk about like privately, but you know, just make sure everything's cool there. But I'm with you. I'm with you. The one that wound me up for him, and I was happy for Lampard is Jose. I think it was the United 4-0. He sat there in his chair, unemployed, and he's saying, "You need principle.
Yeah,
you need principle of play." And I was like, "Bruv, like." You're on JSA right now, and you're chatting rude about a guy who you shared all this time with and all these moments with, who Lampard would have seen this guy as a demigod, thinking of how he come in 2005. So I just loved, and also they weren't grabs. They were both strong performances. Two of the best of our year.
Yeah. The worst thing about that is like, I don't think Lampard would have ever expected that from Jose. Like, especially considering that he didn't have a job. It's not like he's a competitor at this moment in time. He should be, like, putting an arm around him after that performance. Because it wasn't a bad performance against United. We made critical errors, but, yeah.
The other thing is, I remember when Jose was here, he made a point about he'll be a Chelsea pundit because Liverpool and United have all the pundits. So you sit there and you just shit on a man. Because why are you being a prick?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, nah. Like, I was praying for the day he came back into management. Just, I wanted Lampard to do him. And especially what compounded it was the little spat between him and Jody. Yeah.
And shout out Jody. He hasn't been as frequent on the old social media since. Probably wise to keep that on the low. All right, so first award done. Biggest flex of the season goes to Frankie Lampard for slapping Jose on the head. Not once, but twice. Hang tight, Frank. On to award number 2. We're going straight to the other end. Biggest L. And the nominees are, this is going to hurt to even read out. Getting slapped up by Manchester United 3 times. Not twice, but 3 times. Having a transfer ban reversed, getting excited for January, and then not strengthening. Getting the double done over us by West Ham United, who I believe have averaged about a point a game under David Moyes, as they did under Pellegrini. Another nominee is 12 losses this season, which is more than Spurs, Arsenal, United, and Wolves.
Yeah.
Things.
I completely didn't get the context of this whole questionnaire, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Meader's vote was thought Christensen was good. He isn't, basically. It's the Kepa thing in reverse, but hang tight to admit
I
him.
don't know how to answer this, but yeah.
And the last nominee, which I'm leaning to, if I'm honest, is, despite all of the positive steps, just getting slappings on slappings in Europe and schoolings and showing that we still might be a little way off. So, boy, we've got one nominee each for all of these things. I'm here to be convinced.
I'll probably decline mine already from the just straight off the bat. I probably would vote. Yeah, I'll you know what, I'll vote just being schooled, because it just felt quite amateurish at time. Like throughout the season, there were times where you feel, oh, we'll eventually learn from this because we've got a young coach, a youngish team, but it's just not what I'm used to. So I took those losses a lot harder than the batterings, you know what I mean? But the ones where you're actually getting proper popped off the pitch. I mean, the Bayern Munich game, I'll never forget it because it was just so vicious. I mean, yeah, those ones for me, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards that. I think for me, that gets my vote.
Jermaine, throwing it to you, why is a West Ham double worse than getting slap up in the Champions League?
Because them things there don't happen. Them things there don't happen. West Ham double. What is that?
Yeah.
And both games as well. The first one, they were coming into the game in some shocking form. I don't even think they'd won a game or some shit. And then they come and slap us like that convincingly as well. Like, it was just embarrassing. And then the second game, we're on a run of form. We come up to West Ham now. We go in front. Don't forget, we were winning that game. And then, lo and behold, we lose the game 3-2.
At a key time as well.
At a key time, that's what I'm trying to say. So the thing is, with the 12 losses, they're scattered across the whole, season. So you've got losses, but you wins, draws, whatever. We were inconsistent, so I don't really take that as like the biggest L because of the quality of the squad, all this kind of stuff. But like, and even with Europe as well, like Bayern Munich slapping us 3-0, compare their team to our team. There's like, come on, man. Like, if you thought we were gonna win that game, realistically, you're kind of buzzing at the time, innit? Because they got better players than us, clearly. Like Lewandowski and man, there's just no comparison. We got Tammy, they got Lewandowski, Gnabry.
Why you got to bring up my guy for, bro?
Bro, it's the facts though, innit? Like, at the end of the day, I don't really see that as an L. But when we're losing to teams like West Ham, who we do not lose twice in a season to, bruv, we don't do that. West Ham of all teams, we do not do that. And we've done it this season. And it's like, this should have happened, bruv. So I just...
These are the two I'm most drawn to here. I need to decide on a winner. Having heard both sides now, Weeds, should we really be as worried about a humbling in Europe at this season as much as a slapping and a bottle job against Minnows?
No, I think I'm leaning towards Jermaine's. I think context of where we are, and it's not just West Ham. If you extend it to like Bournemouth, one of the benefits of them going down is that we don't start off on -6 points next season.
Wow.
It's that for me is probably key. And yeah, I think for me, I was disappointed with how far. We're 30 points behind Liverpool, and we're miles off Bayern Munich standards. So for me, that was kind of more of just a reflection of the season. But I think if you're looking at actual punchier moments, the West Ham game probably takes it.
Especially that second one.
Yeah, second one was just dreadful.
Yeah. All right, boom. Second award won. Congratulations to West Ham for depressing us twice, not once, but twice this season. Biggest L is the disaster classes against the Hammers. And yeah, boy. I ain't even going to lie. Next award is so selfish for us listeners. You're going to get bored because we're just going to love each other up right now. It's been a long season, not just for everyone, but for the cast, bro. So the next award is the cast member of the year. Right? We've all grinded with these podcasts. We put a lot into them. We enjoy them as much as everybody listening hopefully does as well. But a lot of work goes into these things. So I just thought it would be a cool little one to just get people saying who they think has really, really contributed. And the nominees are, what the fuck? Why am I not there, bro? Oh, okay. All right, say nothing. Sorry, I just, it's cool. Just put together this award, isn't it? But the nominees are Dan, Soft, The Film Room, The Sofa, The Soft Light, Joe Tweeds, The Spreadsheet Sniper, The Amortization Animal, and Jermaine, the left-winged lighty himself, Czechoslovakian.
You make me sound like I should be playing for Bournemouth, guys. From your left wing light.
Down there with King, Wilson, and all of them, man. And the winner is, and it's not even close. It's not that close. And this is why I had to get you on the pod tonight, bro, so you can hear your flowers. Yes, Jermaine. Man, like Jermaine. What a journey, Jermaine.
Man appreciates it still. Man can't lie.
I think I'll let everyone else speak on why. I think it's good to do them things, men telling each other and all that. But I won't lie, I was on the early episodes of the pod. I bounced off for a little bit. I had to handle some stuff. I came back, there was this guy who sat in my chair. Who's this? And yeah, man, you smashed it. The passion's there, the agendas are there. Pulisic back at number one and been a massive part of it. Mr. Ever-Present, Jermaine Azpilicueta.
Yeah.
But yeah, boys, I know you got a couple votes, so anyone want to shout out Jermaine?
I'll say, look, okay, so for me, I think what will definitely swing it for anyone that knows Jay, a couple weeks ago on the podcast, we were on a pod, and his missus was getting contractions live.
Yes.
Recording. So, and his commitment to finish his point, he didn't even say, boys, I got to go. He said, he started panicking, then finished his entire point, his entire rant, a good 5 minutes. And then said, he kept it so professional. He kept it so professional and calm, but in the midst of a madness. So, yeah, fully deserved, man. Fully deserved.
That day was crazy.
Yeah, no, I second that. And I think, Jermaine graduated from the academy earlier on in the season. I think we like a good youth story. So from the academy to, first team. A bit like JT, stepping up, coming in, main man, key player. But no, for me, it was just a consistency. I think Jay's always on. And yeah, I love the passion that he brings to the pod. So it's always good to hear him, especially when he gets to back Pulisic or anyone that he's been backing from early. When that comes back into play, and the face that he's doing now.
Not to slip it in. Yeah, Pulisic,
Yeah.
I just enjoy, bro. I can't lie. I just enjoy being on the pod, innit? Like, it's the first time I've been ever done a podcast or whatever. So, to be a part of the podcast and all that is sick. And I think, obviously, for the future in that as well, I feel like the future of the pod, just Touchline in general, I think there's way more to come in terms of what we're gonna do in the future and that. So yeah, man, it's been sick, bro. It's not even a problem to be on this podcast. More time I'm looking forward to it. It's probably one of the things I look forward to in the week and that. So yeah, man, proper appreciate that 100%.
I'm glad I did this award now because we ain't gonna get an acceptance speech for any of the other ones, to be honest. So cheers for that. That's really authenticated the evening. So love for that. Next award, moving on to the Diego Costa Award. Now this is awarded to individuals who show the spirit of Diego at Stamford Bridge, which has been lacking a little bit as well, so it's nice to see glimpses of it, right? And that can be interpreted a few ways. It can be, I don't know, maybe just being humour, being standing up to be counted, a little bit of aggression, a little bit of nastiness, which we maybe miss. And the nominees are Jorginho. Yeah, I was waiting for that. So now I asked for clarification on this one, and I got told that, do you know what? For a team that don't really have many on-pitch vocal leaders and lack a bit of bite, it's nice to see someone try and, you know, fight above their size a little bit of verbals, a little bit of nastiness here and there. Yeah.
But no tactical fouls, no dragging man by the shorts, none of that. You know, on counter attacks. That's
Well, he has to get there first, doesn't he? But yeah. All right, Pel. So that wasn't your nomination. No worries, mate. Some people just trying to have a good time in that, innit? But next one up, Kepa for pissing everyone off is the justification given there, except for the opposition. So I don't know about spirit of the Diego, but he's definitely got people talking anyway. Mason Mount for telling Guendouzi to get your fucking haircut. Strong nomination there.
What?
Strong nomination there. That's you know who nominated that for that detail. That's the spreadsheet.
That's a definite. That's a joke.
Next up, Zuma for leaving one in on Troy Deeney when he proper didn't have to. Like, it just was nasty. And then final nomination is Lampard versus Klopp. In the moment, heat of the moment. I'm not talking to you. Won one fucking title and you're moving, giving it the big un. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Again, these are spread. So I'm here to be convinced. I'm assuming Kepa and Jorginho aren't going to win this one.
Nah, it has to be Frank. It has to be Frank.
Yeah.
But the what makes it even sweeter, yeah, is because I think even before the game started again, we were like, because we knew what it was like in Germany. So you can hear everything. You can hear all the players and that, but we don't really speak German, so we don't really understand their swearing. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great. If we're gonna have no fans, imagine the swear words, imagine the swearing, imagine the anger. Yeah. So I was expecting from the players, but to hear it from Frank, delicious. Absolutely delicious as well. And he's so right. He's so right, because the Liverpool lot were getting too big for their boots. So that's big shit house for you. I like that. Only thing that took away from it is an L. We lost. We got slapped. That's it.
Means is like a 9-year-old. You know, when they're excited to hear like some like X-rated like 18, 16 content. Yeah. Man's gassed over swear words, you know. Of course. Oh, absolutely. Because you know what it is. This whole idea, this whole notion that footballers are role models and that is bollocks. It's not true. It's not true. They're human beings like everyone else. So you get to see a little bit of realism and recognizing that these people are actually humans too. And that's what Frank Lampard did after the press conference the day after. He's like, well, yeah, I got a bit passionate. He didn't really apologize. He's like, sorry, but not sorry.
That was the thing I loved about it, man.
Yeah.
Like, you apologize. You don't have to apologize. Obviously, he had to do the obligatory, could have used better language. Yeah, I got daughters. Yeah, cool. But I'm not sorry. I showed passion. What? Is basically what he said.
He said, sorry, but not sorry. I don't care. So I like that. You get an element of realness, which I appreciate still. I appreciate that a lot. But,
I'll go with that as well still. I think you have to remind them, man, there still. Because Lampard, yeah, he's not no little boy as well, you know, blood. Like, Lampard's a big boy in this thing, you know. So you have to mind how you chat to Lamps, bro. Even though you won the league, you have to relax over there. You understand? We're coming soon. Just relax. Try to win it again, back to back, and then you can start talking a lot. But I'll go with the Lamps thing as well still.
Another winner. Frank Lampard wins the Diego Costa Award. Big win, big W. Dub. Next award, the Rob Green Award for the best Chessy Hour cameo of the season. So again, another one off the pitch. Nominations are Marvin, Babs, and Pablo Blackwood. And the winner is... The winner is... I think, did you just make a noise because you realised you should have nominated someone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As did I.
So switch my vote to the last name and then recalculate.
Yeah,
This is a moonlight.
Landslide.
Envelope gone wrong. Everything.
Slide.
It
Buzzer.
wasn't quite hot enough. It was the cold ball that I meant you to pick
You
up.
needed more clarity on that one, bro. You can't just.
You look okay. I did get 2
Nickname
votes
thing.
if people didn't know the question. You lot made your choices. Babs was hard on the pod, but you lot preferred some banter about the realness.
I forgot about Pablo still.
All right, I think. Okay, Moonlight, La La Land. We'll swap the envelope. Hang tight, Pabs. Pabs, I know you started listening to the pod since that and everything. So those who aren't aware of that, Babs, by the way, very close second. Mad nominations in there. Well done, Babs. Hang tight, Pablo. Pabs came on the pod a few weeks ago on the day of actually, like all of this news breaking about sort of historic youth teams suffering and players suffering from racism. Chelsea in the late 80s, early 90s under Quinn Williams and other coaches. And yeah, Pabs came on, was really, really open, really, really candid with his experiences, gave us some real food for thought. Yeah, and it was really, I was love for him to open up to me like that as well and let me in and have a chat with him. There's a guy I've known for a long time, I respect very much. So what we'll probably do is for anyone who's later on listening and sort of a new listener, we'll put a little link to that interview below this in the pod, because I think it was a really poignant one and probably one of the best people we've had on the pod. So hang tight, Pabs. Pabs loves awards. Pablo loves awards, so he'll be gassed about that, even if there's no medal or trophy or nothing. But yeah, hang tight, Babs though. Discord legend, right?
He was good. He was really good when he was on. Yeah.
Discord legend, strong on the pod. He just, yeah. It was just a close run thing. Blame Joe for changing his vote. Anyway, top up. Best opposition faced this season. So this was open to team or player, but everyone's gone team. So the nominations are Manchester United. Like, I know, yeah, okay, it was 3 defeats in that, but they were cack in the majority of the time. But okay, Manchester United, their nomination is democracy out here. Tottenham. Pels, you wanna have a word? Like, what are you on there?
Yeah, no, it was just fun to beat them twice. That was it.
Okay.
My favorite.
All right. Okay.
You know, like when you love seeing someone, so you can take their money.
I hear you. Well, that's the okay. Different angle.
Like a bullying kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
I hear that.
I endorse bullying.
Oh, it's my favorite guy. Then one. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. Now I see why you don't put your face on the pod with comments like that, fam. You'll be cancelled in all day. Bayern Munich, Ajax, and West Ham. And the winner is with a majority here is I think it goes without saying it's Bayern who is probably the one team who absolutely battered us off the park this year. Going back to an earlier award, they kind of did show where the level is and yeah, it weren't nice. Obviously, we've got the second leg coming up. Open question to the group really is: do we get anything out of that second leg, considering we finished more recently or a bit sharper? And also, how much of that gap do we have to bridge before we might have to face them again next year?
I feel like that game, yeah. Because I remember watching it back, and yeah, in the first half we had a bit of our moments, but I feel like if we were a little bit more clinical, we would have had a bit of a game of it in comparison to what happened. I think Tammy started. Or did Tammy start that game? No, Tammy came on second half. Giroud, he wasn't really sharp at that point in time. I don't think he was really sharp, but he played a couple games on the bounce, and obviously that was his first couple of games after being left in the cold. Obviously, he scored against Tottenham, scored against Liverpool, but actually he played well against Liverpool. So yeah, I think it was one of them ones where it was an accumulation of games that probably came a bit too soon for him. But now, I don't know. I feel like Dave's not played for a month. It's possible we could probably win the game, but are we going to go through? Probably not. I think we probably left things a little bit too late with that third goal. again, calamity of errors. Christensen and Rudiger really, really poor, and it's just, it's kind of taken the tie away from us. So I don't feel like the gap is incredibly big. It's still a significant gap, but I don't think it's like massive, to the point where I'm like, okay, we need a complete overhaul of everyone in the team. I feel that in key areas we need to adjust, and obviously the individual mistakes will be reduced when you add more quality. So yeah, that's it for me.
Right. Unless we come out, like, remember the Barcelona when it was like 3-0 quick team?
20 minutes, yeah.
20 minutes, like a Mazza. Like, it's got to be crazy like that, I think. Like, it's got to be first 2 goals has to be us. And then from then on, you build on the momentum to try and get the third. But then you're still, with the quality that they've got, that the reason why it would just be so hard is because even when you're 2-0 up, you probably bet that the third goal will probably come from them. Do you get what I'm saying? So I feel like it's I agree. I think it's a game that we could win, but again, it's just too much of an ask, like to bridge that gap, man. 3-0 is a lot, bro. Again, 5 minutes.
I think if you look at next season, if we get the players that we're being linked to in the positions that we're seemingly looking to buy, and then I'm not saying anything that we'd sort of be closer to them, but I think actually we'd probably give them a fairly decent game. I think if Lampard and the coaching team, have a season of development for them, hopefully that some of the ideas at the back of start, some of the ideas that haven't worked, they're kind of disregarded. But those, we've already added 2 players, potentially Havertz, and maybe 3 kind of defensively, left back, centre back, maybe a holding mid. Then I think we're going to Champions League next season with a pretty decent starting 11. I think we're still a little way off in terms of the quality of the squad. I think that's mostly because we've got a lot of young players. But I think in next season would be that the young players that played this season will be better. I think we'll be closer. I think at the moment we're still a little bit off of the top teams. And I think probably I look more to the fact that we're 30 points off Liverpool in the league than Bayern. So close that gap to Liverpool, and I think the gap in Europe closes naturally.
Fair play. So yeah, I mean, next week we'll talk on that fixture a lot more, and our place in Europe a lot more with that coming up. Next award is the one that Palumi just said, no, I'm not in, because academy till he dies and that. It's the Josh McEachran Award, which is awarded to, a bit controversially, the talented academy player who is least likely to make a career at Chelsea. And I know we're big fans of a lot of the players nominated here, so it's not even a cussing thing, but it's just, I thought it'd be an interesting one to discuss about where the roadblocks are, because with these signings coming in, Havertz, Werner, potentially a Rice, potentially a left back, hopefully there isn't. You're looking at these sort of signings and you wonder how now, past transfer ban, which of these young players are starting to maybe hit a wall and maybe have to go elsewhere. Nominees are Armando Broja, Fikayo Tomori, and Tammy Abraham.
Ooh.
Now, there is a winner here, but I'm interested in the discussion. So, Broja, I get that. I think he is in a stat position, hasn't had as much involvement. I think that is probably percentage-wise, probably most likely. But the Tammy inclusion is interesting to me. Anyone want to speak on why that might be him taking this award home?
I'll go because
Mead's trying to get in his bag in the top right.
I definitely had him down, and the reason why I'd have that down is because you look at the signing obviously that we've got this year. We've got Werner coming in. He's not old. Do you know what I mean? He's 24, so that already is worrying signs for Tammy straight off the bat. Then you've got the fact that the last 3 seasons Tammy's been a starter. He hasn't been a bench boy. He's been a starter. Yeah? So I don't know how happy he's going to be being a bench boy. And then the third thing is this season, you've got a very, well, you got old guard in terms of Giroud outperforming you. Now, I know Tammy can get better, but is he going to get better at Chelsea? Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So, like, eventually, he's going to have to make the decision, whether it's, if he wants it, like, we've all been ranting and raving about how Cho might need to go out on loan. Well, not all. So, like, Dan obviously made he obviously said, Cho would get regular minutes going out on loan and that would help his development. Why is that not the same for Tammy Abraham? You know what I'm saying? Because he needs regular minutes as well. He's not going to get regular minutes next season.
Well, I guess it's what you define as regular, right?
Yeah, but for a striker, you need to be starting. Like, everybody was saying, Bats needs to start. It's going to be the same for Tammy Abraham.
Not everybody, Jimmy.
But for him to get form, people would say he needs to start.
I hear that. I think strikers may be one most important for momentum. Exactly. I hear that.
So with Tammy, I just feel like at his age now, he can't risk being a bench boy, especially coming off the back of his last 3 seasons. He can't risk being a bench boy due to the fact that we've got someone like Werner in front of him. And then on top of that, he's just got so much to add to his game. When you look at someone like Giroud, who plays for us now, and you look at the stark difference in when Giroud plays.
Well, I don't want to get this into a whole Tammy debate. There is a difference. You know I'm a Giroud fanboy.
Yeah.
But there's also a 12-year gap. And Giroud really grew into that role, even over his Arsenal time, grew into that role where everything stuck, everything was on, everything was set, perfect. I think is something I discussed a little bit on, I think with you lot, don't know if I've said it on a pod previously, but just when you look at Tammy's sort of track and development, even in the academy, go watch his goals. Like, he's maturated to brass. Like, he's bigger than everyone. So is he getting his learning about really using his body and setting and play? All of his goals are just running in behind and slotting it, really. And then you get to men's football, and even at Bristol and Villa, like, he wasn't as involved in build-up play from what I saw. Obviously, watched a lot less of him there, just the games that were televised. And now I think he's being asked to do a job which he will facts be better at 26 and 22. We've all gone through those ages and got stronger as the years have gone on, right? But I think it's an interesting point is that you've made there is it's an interesting time. There's the contract thing a little bit limbo. He's just come off a 15 non-penalty goal season. Only person to do that in the last 9 years is Costa. So whichever way you look at it, he's been in consistent second half, 100%. But whichever way you look at it, it's a good return for a 22-year-old player. 100%. And it's like, yeah, if you're him now and you're looking at your trajectory, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one, and maybe need to step down to flourish. Just moving on from Tammy quick to just get the discussion in. The other one that's worth a discussion is Fikayo Tomori, and I can reveal that Fikayo Tomori has won this award with a majority.
What? I'm sad. I'm upset.
With a majority. The Josh McEachran Award goes to Fikayo Tomori.
That's very surprising.
But I do not think people are voting this on quality.
No.
Now, Pels, as the Academy aficionado, you were Switzerland on this, you didn't want to say no names. Thanks, Joe. Didn't want to say no names. Can you see why that might be the most likely in terms of probability?
Yeah, I can. It's just saddening because I feel like for someone like him, he's probably, especially out of our defenders, maybe aside from Zuma, and who's played obviously a lot more regularly, he's probably been our top 2, best centre half this season. And I can understand why you'd look at it in terms of you don't ever really see Fick being the kind of the centre half. You expect him to be the partner. And at present, in terms of like his pecking order of where he would be in terms of that partnership, he's probably a lot lower down than I think he should be. And it comes a little bit from what we were talking about in terms of he's probably just the easiest person to drop in terms of seniority, in terms of his status within the squad. And almost like off the back of, he's that surprise inclusion in terms of no one probably expected him to do much, of what he's done this season or even last season, because his loans at Hull and Brighton didn't probably go to plan. So I think that last year was obviously like amazing for him, and this year would have been the same. But just in terms of where he is in that pecking order, especially where we need to strengthen, like I think outside of the Havertz, we need to strengthen everywhere, but outside of the kind of attacking reinforcements that we're bringing in, the next stage of that is, you know, piling it on at the back, and you worry for someone like him. I don't know if Ampadu counts in the same way as an academy graduate, but equally I'd worry for someone like him too, because I'm potentially saying, you know, we need maybe one or two centre halves, and then you just kind of look at it and think, where does, you know, Tomori fit into that equation?
You've kind of touched on it there in terms of like, and I think I speak to everyone on the pod, like, I don't think there's anyone with any real strong opinion that, like, yeah, he should have been dropped when he was and not seen again. Like, I think I speak for everyone in finding one was a bit of a strange one considering his performance. Like, he had a wobble, but what fucking said about do we have that hasn't had a wobble? Like, it's not like you had a wobble and Giroud came in and smashed it. So, Joe, just quick one. Do you think the loan is, how do I word it? Just looking at Brighton and Hull, and then looking at Derby and Chelsea, where he's had his good years under Lampard. Do you think this idea he's linked with another loan? Do you think that might just be a massive risk and a bit unfair, or do you think everyone's on board? It's best for development right now. Come back at 23, 24.
It's a tough one. I can see the arguments for the loan, but it all depends on how it all depends on how much he's going to play, and also the kind of team he's going to go to. Because I think, again, with him, it's being quality when your team is dominating the ball, when you're in possession. You know, I think sometimes you can send him into sort of like a Bournemouth style team, and all he's doing all season is defending in his penalty box. It's not really the same kind of stuff that he'd be doing at Chelsea. So I think the loan would be beneficial. I think that the second thing, I did vote for Tomori as well, and it's a little bit, I think, what Pels was saying. It's more of a projection of where he is at the moment in the pecking order from Lampard's perspective, rather than a reflection of his ability. But also, you know, you've got Mark Guehi at Swansea, who I think personally, if there was going to be a centre-back from the Chelsea academy that came in and actually could become one of those two that you look at, I think he's got a little bit more in his locker, just from a pure technical defensive standpoint. He's obviously matured sort of really well this season, came to Swansea, didn't really play like kind of first of all, but once he kind of found his feet, you know, it was a real big key part of them making that late surge into the playoffs. So I think for me, it's a little bit, I think Tomori it's been unfairly treated. I mean, Rudiger jumping back into the team was one of the strangest decisions I think Lampard made all season. And then continually being picked, even though he has some really, really low moments. You know, and then obviously the injuries as well haven't really come at the right time for him. I would have expected him to at least have had a look in post-lockdown. But again, if you're coming back from that sort of injury period as well, that's also tricky. So maybe a loan is a good bet, but it has to be for me to a team that at least has aspirations of being, you know, kind of a bit more dominant on the ball. Mm-hmm. So he plays in a system that's a bit more akin to what he's going to get used to. So I think if you play in like a team where all you're doing is defending, that's what you get used to. You don't get used to being on the ball, controlling the game, having to kind of pick your moments to defend in small bursts of quality. You're on it all the time, and I don't think it always translates.
No, and I think there's a big trade-off there. If you want a team that's dominant, you usually have to go to a level below, and exactly, if you want to test him at the level, you're probably not going to be a team that's dominant. So, yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate win for Tomori there. I think everyone here is quite high on him, and I think he showed a lot this season. Yeah, you do worry when you look at the links with Rice and this whisper that he's seen as a centre-back, where he's a very, very good player, and they might just sort of see him as, you can put him on ice for another year or two. It's a tough one there, but I think hopefully they say we're wrong, because I think we'd all like to see him in the club for quite a while. Next award, biggest robbery, and this is the award given to our performance, which was CAC, in a game where we somehow managed to get something out of it. And the nominees are, this is a pretty landslide win, I can't even lie, but the nominees are Valencia away in the Champions League, Bournemouth away, Arsenal away, not great away, and Ajax 4-4 at home, where we needed a ref to get it down to 9 for us to look like doing anything. And unsurprisingly, as fun as the game was, before they went down to 9, we got popped like a balloon, and that win goes to Ajax. But well done us getting the 4-4, got us out of the group. Happy days, biggest robbery of the year. Well done, Reece James, for getting us that equaliser. Lucky Lampard strikes again. Next award is the one to watch for next season. Again, like, it's cool to see, because I think people have taken this their other way, different ways. Some are just excited about a player. Some have gone a bit younger. I'm going to disqualify Dan's vote, because in typical Dan fashion, his one to watch next season award was Mason Mount, because he's going to play anyway, so we'll be forced to watch him.
Such a Dan shout.
Yeah, not quite what I was going for, Dan. I wanted to get a bit happy after the Josh McEachran award, but that's all right. Nominees are Hakeem Ziyech, Reece James, and Joe Tweeds gave me 3 because he writes a lot, so I'm going to go with his first one, Conor Gallagher. Winner, with 3 votes out of 6, Hakeem Ziyech. So we haven't gone young with that. Jermaine, I know you sort of did the deep dive with me on Ziyech. How excited are you for him? What role do you think he can play?
Proper, man. I think in terms of obviously creativity, he is going to add that. I think there's a lot of talk around Havertz coming in, and obviously he's going to add a lot of creativity as well. But we've looked a lot at like his ability to score goals more so with Havertz, and I think with Ziyech, I don't know what it is as well with Ziyech, but you just feel like he's just going to add sauce to the team, innit? Like when he comes, that's every time I watch like clips of him and that, I just feel like we're finally going to be a threat again on that right-hand side, because I've been watching Willian for way too long, getting the ball, stopping, shimmying, doing nothing. Like, it's just so long in it. So I feel like with Ziyech, he comes in, I'm looking forward to see that trademark cross that he does, back post, and hopefully Cho, can be playing left wing, getting a few goals next season. But Pulisic as well, all them guys, I think they're going to love playing with him. But I think, Ziyech's I think he's just a crazy player. I think people are like getting excited about Havertz and Werner and that, because they're also the big money signings as well, innit? Ziyech was a little bit cheaper, but I think Ziyech I don't even think it's going to be close. I think he's going to be like our most skillful player, like when he comes.
I think the Havertz one obviously is not confirmed, whatever. I've always said that was like the biggest signing since Havertz in terms of since Hazard in terms of targeting like a premier player. But I think Ziyech's just going to be the most exciting player since Hazard. I don't really think that's. I think he's a joke. Like, he's so fun to watch. Meads, I got one just because I know you went again and just done a little bit of a deep dive there in terms of him coming from the Dutch league. Obviously, that's a weak competition. Everything, Eredivisie is not quite, or doesn't always translate. But the revered nature he is held in by Ajax as a club, as a fan base, player of the year 3 times in a row. What does that tell you? Obviously, yeah, we know sort of him as a player, but what does that tell you about his significance, about why he'd be the man we could really look to next season to make a massive difference?
Well, I feel like the rationale that because he plays in the Eredivisie, it's not, he can't be a quality player or a top player. But ultimately, you test his capabilities and what he does against probably the better teams. So against Real Madrid's, against the Juventus's, against the Chelsea's, etc. And Ziyech, more often than not, has performed in all of those games, even against Tottenham as well. he's performed. So the quality, for me, the quality, I'm not necessarily worried about the quality because I've seen him in high-level games and I've seen how he performs in high-level games. And that's what makes me feel like, again, if we're getting Ziyech, obviously we've got Werner now. The links are with Havertz. So I've always been a big fan of having a spread of quality because you're not going to overload someone, especially a new signing. There's a lot of pressure on you to produce. So when you're sharing the load, generally, I think you tend to be a little bit more free. But I also feel like the nature of Ziyech is to take responsibility. You know what I mean? So I think there's I don't want to say a creative leader, but when it comes to creating chances and taking responsibility and taking, being the risky player, because he takes risks. That's a big part of the way he plays. He takes risks and he always tries to inject a bit of quality into a game. So I feel like, yes, Werner may get the goals. Yes, Havertz might add a bit of class if he comes. But I feel like an ever-presence of quality, I feel like Ziyech will bring it. And he may not even give you like the goals and assists straight away, but in terms of the hard work and hard graft, about just generally his temperament and the way he plays the game, I think he'll bring a lot to our team, a lot. And I really am hoping that, I don't want to say I'm hoping Willian, I hope Willian goes, but I feel like it'll be a completely breath of fresh air because we haven't had that level of. Or Hazard, of course, but in terms of creativity,
But I get what you mean. It's different. It's different. It's different.
Type of maverick. I think Hazard was very carefree in the way he approached the game. He was, again, top quality, world class. But I think Ziyech, in terms of creativity, will add something completely new, and that's the thing I'm really looking forward to more than anything, to be honest.
Cool. So yeah, big winner there, one to watch. Gallagher, just a quick one because it was a bit more of a rogue shout. Reece James, you just hope he kicks on with what he does based off of this year. But Joe, just having looked at Gallagher, a little quick word on where you think he could be next year. Maybe a stretch to be involved with us, or do you think there's a role?
I think it's going to be interesting. I'd like to see him involved in pre-season with the first team, just sort of make a decision from there. I think he's hinted potentially Swansea again for him as another move. I know certainly for a few channels that are quite a few Premier League teams are looking at him as a loan player for next season. But I just think in this whole like modern midfield trend of guys with engines who have got technique, he puts a foot in, he gets up and down, he scores goals, he grabs assists. A lot of people doubted Mason Mount before the season on a very, very similar thing. I think personally, watching both of them, I think Gallagher probably is a little bit more impressive in the Championship. I think in terms of what he's done, his overall body of work, particularly at Charlton, when they really needed him and they weren't a particularly good team. So I look at that and I look at what Mount's done. I've always been a pretty big fan of Gallagher. So looking at that, if you've got Mount who can do a similar thing, Gallagher certainly can play in those midfield areas, can play as a 10, can play wide, can play as a 6. I've even seen him play. So it'd be interesting. I'd like to see him get a look in pre-season, but probably for me, Premier League loan would be a good move for him next year.
I mean, there's the the Gilmore injury. Jorginho, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Kante not looking like he's going to last the whole season. So, I mean, it would be an interesting one for sure, but there might be more of a little slot in the deep midfield role that he filled at Charlton as opposed to Swansea as a 10. So it's an interesting one, and he's looked really, really good this year. So fair play. A guy with 2 clubs as well in the same season is tough. It's really tough to keep the level of performance high at both. So shout out him. Coming to the end now. The Antonio Rudiger Award. No, it's not for fucking about with it in the box. It's the Consistent Hustle Award. The Antonio Rudiger Consistent Hustle Award, given to basically the player that grafts. Now, again, like I said, I put this out with intentional ambiguity. So shout out one of these nominees, Meads. Giving it to Willian, which I thought, yeah, fair play. Willian does his bit of work, gets back, does a lot of pressures. No, it was the Hustle Award to Willian because he's managed to hustle people into thinking that he's good because of penalties.
It's true.
Listen, We take these awards. We take these awards and we make what we want of them. In terms of the true Antonio Rudiger tradition, nominees are Cesar Azpilicueta, Mateo Kovacic, and Kurt Happy Zuma. And I can reveal that. And Mason Mount. Shout out Mason, who seems to knacker himself about every 6 weeks. So maybe less hustle next, Mason. Winner is captain consistent, Cesar Azpilicueta. Strong. And now I'm gonna touch on Cesar now as opposed to in the next award. Has he surprised anyone as much as he has me this year?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's just.
The man's made a face. What?
Yeah.
I don't get the surprise though.
I'll be real, and this is me like just putting my hands up. If you asked me 14 months ago, maybe, I thought he was done. I thought he was coming to the point where he was squad rotation, put him in for a big game, good leader, but 38 games a year, I thought I'm done with that. Not showing enough in the final third, getting burned a little bit because Sarri had him a bit too involved in stuff. Not done to the point where he needs to go, but definitely a lesser role. And now this year, I think he's almost been my best player of the restart, to be honest, obviously away from Giroud and Pulisic. And I think just across the season, he's been our most consistent defender by a mile. I'm not saying much, obviously, but he's been really solid. So that's where I say it's a surprise to me.
I mean, he had a shaky first couple of months. I'd probably say like the first 2 months, he looked a bit shaky. Obviously, Reece James was he was on the cusp of coming back. And I think that's when he really bucked his ideas. I feel like Reece James came back, put in a good performance. I think it was in the FA Cup. He got an assist and a goal. And then Aspie returned for the Premier League game. And to be fair to him, he looked quite solid. So I feel like that kind of gave him a kick up the arse. But I feel like...
I think there was a quote from Lampard meets that we zoned in on after a game where he wasn't great. And Lampard made a big point to say Reece James is going to be a massive player. And it was a bit like, okay, all right.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I remember that actually. Aspie had a real stinker. And Lamps was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got James coming back. And every one of us thought, okay, you know what? This is it. Aspie's done. Because, yeah, Aspie for those 2 months was terrible. But, yeah, since then, to be honest, he's looked relatively solid. Whether it's left back, right back, right centre back, he's looked pretty solid. So I wouldn't say it's a surprise, though. But he turned it around. Let's just say after the first months, he turned it around. I wouldn't say surprise.
That's where I stand with it as well in terms of the surprise thing, because with Aspie, if you've watched him, which we all have for the last few years, like ever since even like Mourinho put him left back, he's just been Mr. Versatile. He's been Mr. Reliable in terms of minutes and games played. And when it comes to defending, he's been class. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of watching him defend and how well he's defended, like that's where I stand in terms of like it's not a surprise. What I will say though is that losing the yard of pace, because I think he has lost a yard of pace. He wasn't crazy quick to begin with.
I think I said on a pod once that he was 29 going on 35 at one point. Like he was looking...
Yeah, I think that's like me said, those first couple months, it looked like he was just gonna get ripped by any player with a little bit of pace, and he managed to turn that around. So fair play to him. But again, I expect that from my fucking captain. Otherwise, you better dash that band away, bro. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So he's a captain for a reason, man. Like,
I hear that. I'm gonna just final word on Azpilicueta. Pels, as someone who I get the feeling hates any footballer that isn't aesthetically picture perfect with their tech.
Shout out Richarlison.
Shout out Richarlison. Yeah, that's a bad take.
I'm not shouting him out on here, man.
Listen. Not everything has to look like FIFA, but all right. Where do you stand on Aspie? Because he does struggle in the final third with being very expansive, and he's had to work on that, and I think he has improved. But where do you stand on him, just in terms of how you see players?
I think he's dependable. And I even like go back and just think about the signing, like 7 million quid. Look at his shirt number. Like no one expected him to even be like anything relevant or anyone.
He's got the shirt number that when they play in the FA Cup, the reporters go, "Oh, the squad adds up to 162."
Yeah.
And I hear
Yes.
that.
And like with that, I just think no one. I didn't know who he was when he came. He just kind of seemed like a normal like Chelsea signing. Like we need to fill the squad. We're just gonna buy someone from here. I thought it was weird that he was Spanish, young, and playing in Marseille.
Yeah, bizarre.
There's so much weird stuff.
It was weird.
And to be quite honest with you, I've never ever had a problem with him because he's always been so reliable. And I think the moment that I did start to have like a few reservations was when it, like you said, it did kind of start to look as though maybe he wasn't going to be as good at the things that he made his name for. And because he doesn't give you the like expansive modern day wing back play, it was kind of like, well, we need to get rid, because obviously you're not crossing well, but then you're also not defending well. It's a little bit worrying. And yeah, even like Sheffield United game is the game that I kind of remember where I think the 2 goals came down from that side. The late cross came from his side, and just kind of thought, like maybe we were right about him. But I think the fact that he's been able to kind of buck his ideas up, I love the right centre back resurgence as well. So he offers that. Yeah. And there was initially there was a point where he wasn't playing in the right centre back role; he was playing as right wing back. And just generally speaking, I think across the season he's probably been our most consistent player in a fairly inconsistent side outside of maybe someone like Kovacic. So yeah, like I'm happy with him. I'm happy that he's here. I think even the kind of model pro thing is a big plus for me.
Huge, yeah.
And I think that a lot of the kind of players, even though he's not a massive name, will definitely like look up to him and respect him as a good captain. So I'm happy that I'm proper happy like with his contribution over the course of the season, even if there are a few kind of like moments where I'm like, get us off the pitch because he can't cross.
Or pass sometimes, but yeah.
But it's all right.
Last award of the night. I'm gonna have to say goodbye to my beautiful evening behind me, my little Avi there. Renaissance Man of the Year. So this is given to the player who has had the biggest rebirth, if we're going by the direct translation, or the biggest change of opinion. And the nominees are Christian Pulisic, Cesaris Piliqueta again, and Big Ollie, World Cup winner.
No.
Winner of the Renaissance Man Award.
No.
Giroud.
Sorry, add that in.
Thank you, Arsenal, Giroud. Olivia, thank you, Arsenal, Giroud. Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks for itself in terms of frozen out August to December. Was going to go in January, almost dead cert, didn't get a replacement, so he was told he had to stay. And then it's just been a complete turnaround, like complete 180. I think even in the January pods, we were kind of here saying he's been a really good servant. He hasn't had any minutes, fair play to him. He wants to play. He's a good player. Off he goes. And then fast forward July, and he's like the person I'm looking to for this FA Cup final is the person who's potentially going to win it for us. So just a word on the Giroud turnaround.
You know what's funny, yes? Like, during pre-season, I think Giroud barely played. I think he didn't play at all, actually.
He had about 30 minutes, because I remember being fuming because when Palumi laughed at me, which I haven't forgotten, but when I thought he's the best striker hands down, and I didn't understand why he didn't play.
Yeah, so he barely played pre-season. So we'll all have casting of votes saying, no, probably be Tammy, probably be Mitchie, probably be Tammy, probably be Mitchie. And I think I'm going to give you your flowers here. You said quite candidly, look, if that happens, by the end of the season, Giroud will be our main striker. You said it verbatim. By the end of the season...
I don't remember that, but I'm taking it straight up. I'm taking it.
You literally said, But at the end of the season, Giroud will be our main striker. And that's because you thought it was the best. Ultimately, the other guys, you think they would flatter to deceive and they'll run their course. But I remember you said, quite frankly, by the end of the season, Giroud will be our main striker.
That probably should have been my biggest flex award in hindsight, really, wasn't it? Like my nomination.
Yeah,
I
didn't think that was going to happen at all. I thought, okay, he's already set out his stall. I thought Lampard's already set out his stall. This was going to happen.
Well, I mean, he did. To be fair, it seemed like Pedro liked a few games, but was out quite quick. Luis, Giroud, good friends as well. The senior player looked like it was just like bounce. I'm going to do the young thing.
Yeah, so it kind of, the preseason pretty much played out exactly how kind of assumed it would be. So Tammy will get the nod. Mitchie will probably get an odd chance here and there to make an impression. Giroud cast off. It's crazy. So yeah, it's a big testament to how he's turned things around, because even during the moments where it looked like he was going to leave, he barely complained. I don't remember him even talking to the press about leaving. He barely mentioned anything. And when he did speak about the press, he said it's the manager's decision. I'm just going to have to respect it. I won't complain. I'll just knuckle down and train. So yeah, model professional. We talk about the lack of leaders at our club. And I think over the last 12 months, it's pretty clear and evident that he is definitely one of the leaders.
100%, yeah.
One of the people that the young players look up to, not because of what he's won, but just more about the way he carries himself and the way he carries himself as a professional. And especially given that period, I think everyone at the club knew that he wanted to leave and play. Frank even admits it, of course. So young players could look at that, even like the Callums, the Tammys, will look at that situation and think, okay, you know what? Right, that's the way to do it. That's the way to move. That's how I do it. You know what I mean? So it's a big influence. And yeah, he speaks about trying to influence the younger players and, you know, being a role model for them. So I feel like he's taken on that responsibility very, very well. Considering he came from Arsenal, who are a bag of ponies that don't really take responsibility for anything.
It's not really a leadership academy over there in North London. No.
It's impressed me that he's elevated himself to this kind of status as well. And I think it comes with the territory of playing for Chelsea. I think he recognised that, you know what, this is Chelsea. It's another level, really. And he's taken himself to that point as well. So I have to give him his dues, 1,000,000%.
It's a funny one as well. He's really joined, like, you do feel like he's joined the Ashley Cole club of like, and even Cesc in a way of just loving it here and loving what the club is about and loving being part of it.
Straight away as well. Straight away.
I think what makes it more sick with Giroud though is as well that he went through something similar last season as well, where Higuain and all them guys came in and everybody thought they were going to be the guy. While meanwhile, my man was finishing top scorer in the Europa, banging a goal in the final. So he's not just been he's not just been probably our best striker this season. He's been our best striker from last season.
But again, like, I hadn't even considered the professionalism of that as well.
Yeah,
like, the guy was playing.
He's taken like the attitude even from last season. Come on now, this season, carried on working. Like me said, he's like January's come. He's thinking about leaving. But then to go one step further, has he even had a goal scoring record like this? Like in terms of games and goals and that?
No, never.
Like,
Never. That's always been a criticism of him, is that he's great at all this other stuff.
Exactly, because Benzema said not so long ago, like, you can't be comparing me and that guy. You can't be comparing him to me. But now look, my man's banging the goals, bro.
Listen, one of them got to win a World Cup and the other one didn't.
No, but if a man chat shit about you and you come out and this is what you do in football. A man chat shit about you, you come out and you do the talking on the pitch, bro, and he's doing it. You know what I'm saying? That's just facts. Like, I'm not saying he's better than Benzema.
No, but 100%. Yeah,
I'm just saying, if a man talks shit about you, the way to dash it back in a man's face is not to go back on the camera and talk shit. It's to just go and do your thing. Be the main guy for us. Get us into the top 4. Go one step further. Win the FA Cup for us, and then bounce home. Innit? Do your thing.
Yeah, I'm sure Benzema's quaking. I feel like with Giroud, like, he's someone for me that I've certainly underappreciated. Probably not like particularly rated for like large portions of his career, partly because of like my disdain and like dislike for Arsenal. And just like his time there, I just don't think it was like covered in much glory. And I guess like with him coming, I was never really that like excited or like I know people get excited about like taking players off Arsenal look smaller than us, but I was just never really like excited for it. I didn't see then how like he could be our guy, and like how wrong I was, because I feel like we look a completely like just a much worse team without him. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's credit to him and credit to like the skills that he brings. But like Jermaine says, like the goals he scored, especially of late, like the Wolves one, I don't think people recognise how mad that was a crazy goal.
Tough goal.
That is like a top like striker goal, and obviously not the quickest. He's got all of that, these things that you wish he didn't have, and the guy is like proving everybody wrong, and he's like, bruv, I'm so thankful to him, fam. I could like if I was
the thing I think I don't like I'm aware the words I'm using now, and I don't want them to be misconstrued. I'm not comparing him as a player to this person, and I'm not pretending his ability is above the station of what I rate it at all. But I think he's become a talisman in the way Hazard was, bear with, in that when games are tough, if you just get the ball in his general direction, you can take a breather, and you can be rest assured that that is a player who's going to look after the ball, probably make something happen, even if it's just a set or a flick or something. But it's just when you have a player like that on whatever area of the pitch, in this case up top, far away from your own goal, just whereas Hazard's case down the wing to get on a 1v1, I can't express how reassuring that must be to just be like, you know what, I'm in trouble here, but we've got Ollie there who's going to win 68, 70% of duels against any. Like Maguire, for all, I think Maguire's a clown on the floor, but he's amazing in the air. And Giroud make him look like a boy in the FA Cup semi-final. Like it wasn't even close. And I think, especially for a team as young as ours, as new as ours, with a manager who probably hasn't quite worked out all the mechanics of how he wants to get out of spaces, to have a guy there who will just be like, yeah, I'll take it, don't watch that, is huge. So that rounds the awards up. We'll put a little rundown of the winners on the Twitter tomorrow. Obviously, it's probably an elephant in the room that there's a big occasion coming up on Saturday, and we haven't touched on that so much. FA Cup final this Saturday against Arsenal, the Leadership Academy. Myself and Jermaine did a last night proper deep dive on the final, went over a heap of stuff. It is on the Patreon, www.patreon.com/Chessy Hour. Make sure you jump on there, support, pick a tier, support everything we do. Have a little listen to that pod in particular. There's also a written analysis leading up to that final and a preview of key battles, key little tactical things that we can look out for, an opposition report. Jump on the Patreon for all of that more heavy FA Cup final content. In the meantime, quick little run through everyone on the pod thoughts for Saturday.
Can I just have a quick little, just to go back to Giroud a little bit. Couple of funny things. I could tell you now that people talk about Giroud as, you know, a good impact player. He didn't score.
Me has been on FB ref. I'm telling you, I can see it in his eyes.
You know, Giroud didn't score a single goal coming off the bench for us. He was more effective when starting. He started 12 games, scored in 8 of them. So he never got a brace. Every time he scored a goal, it was a singular goal. And generally, they were quite decisive. So I feel like Lampard should really take some... I think maybe for the future, he needs to start learning his players a little bit more and trusting in certain players a little bit more, because there was a big stretch of time where he just weren't in the squad at all. I think the whole December, January, he weren't in squads. So it's just all a bit mad. If you look at just considering the amount of starts and goals he's scored, it's actually crazy. It's actually crazy. So starts to goals, he's been incredible. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, big up Ollie G, man. Big apology.
What sort of impact do you think he's going to have Saturday, Miz?
I think against Arsenal, I feel like he will get an extra little boost. You know what I mean? Because he scored against them in the Europa League final. He played very, very well against them in the Europa League final. And if there's one striker that I feel that can occupy a defence, and especially, you know, David Luiz loves it in the big games, I feel like Giroud could kind of give him a bad day. I mean, I feel like he'll be able to occupy a defence and bring others into it. It'll be interesting to really see who he's flanked with. But I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. Obviously, Pulisic will start. Well, I don't know, obviously. But I thought Mason Mount will probably start, especially after his heroics at the weekend. A fantastic free kick and an assist for Giroud. So I think it'll probably be Mount and Pulisic again. But yeah, I thought Giroud, I'll be shocked if he doesn't get a goal, because he does love it in a cup finals as well, or at Wembley. He likes it at Wembley. So
his record in the FA Cup final is strong.
Yeah.
This will be his. I think last year with us was his 4th FA Cup, no?
Yeah. So he loves the competition. He loves it. So we'll see, man. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't perform well, considering the run he's been on. Considering he's also got a week's rest as well for the first time in a long time. So, yeah, fingers crossed, man, we get the job done. Because that will just be a super impressive season for Frank Lampard. Super impressive.
Halloumi, how do you see that game shaping up? Because you and me have a little disagreement on Arsenal. I think you think they're a slightly better side than I do. I was on the pod on the Patreon, I was very clear to Jermaine that I hated watching pretty much every minute of them. In the research for it, I don't think they're a good side. I think they're a dangerous side. I don't think they're a tough side. I don't think they're a particularly good side. How do you see it shaping up Saturday?
Yeah, no, we're not too dissimilar in that kind of, or on that rather. But I think the one thing that I've noticed, or I feel like might be just a bit of a headache for Lamps, is just where we press them is my thing. I don't think they're as awful in possession or, no, I think they're awful at creating chances in terms of build-up play. But just in terms of, you know, the situations they can get themselves out of, or he's rehearsed in terms of that kind of exit strategy, that play from the goalkeeper and whatnot. I do think that that's going to be something that, you know, as a tactic or as an instruction, deciding where we press them and what space we afford them is really important. You don't want too much time and space for like people like David Luiz, because those balls like into the channels, you know, can be a bit problematic with the kind of speed that they have up top. But then equally, you know, you don't want to allow them to kind of, you know, build play and get through. So it's I've just said the same thing. But basically, I'm kind of the feeling that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Benitez's blanket.
Yeah.
You don't really know what end to leave. You don't want to allow them all the time, but
literally.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm with it. But obviously, I do think we're better. And the only other thing that I'm fearful of is that if they do completely concede possession, as they have done so often, you know, we saw City really struggle to break them down in the semi. And we don't have the same quality. We don't have the same sort of kind of attacking structure and rehearsed movements as they do. So when it gets to, like, you know, us camping or them camping in their box sort of thing, I'm not really backing us to score unless, you know, we win a penalty like we did against like Burnley, and then they go for the game and then it opens up basically. So that'd probably be the one thing I'm fearful of in terms of our inability to kind of penetrate.
And last word on the final, Joe. I think Halloumi sort of touched on something I mentioned with Jermaine on our pod last night, is that, and I didn't mean as a cuss, even though it kind of sounds like it, but Arsenal at the moment to me play like a lower league team. Not lower league, sorry, like a lower placed, a mid-table fighting, scrapping team, which I think is a good thing for Arteta to have done in there. I think it's good. Just like start from the back and all that from the foundation. But I think we're worse against those sides. I think we've acquitted ourselves really well against Tottenham, Liverpool, United. I think we've actually outplayed United for a lot of the time. played well against City twice, great against Wolves. I think it's the teams like how Arsenal are playing now that we really struggle against. So I think Palumi's made a great point about if City struggle to break them down and they play a flat 5-4-1 camped on their box at times, like they're not ashamed to do that. Do you see a final where we could quite easily lose it, or would you back us to break that down?
I think the interesting thing for me is if you cast your minds back to the Europa League final, I think Arsenal going that game perceived themselves to be favourites. They were very confident. I remember their fans. I remember watching them train. I think that the spirit of the team at the time, they were walking into that game favourites. And whenever they have that mentality, and this is going back years and years and years now to early 2000s Arsenal, when they're overconfident, I always think we're going to slap them. Like, it doesn't matter who we've got playing, whatever, when they come into games like that. The problem we've got now is I think they are positioning themselves, as you say, as an underdog, and they're seeing themselves as an underdog, and they'll be quite comfortable playing, sitting, flat back five, camped on the edge of the penalty area, deep midfield block, deep striker, working hard, etc. And we have not looked remotely great against any of these sorts of teams this season. Even the Wolves game at the weekend, where I felt we played well, it took a real moment of quality from Mason Mount to open that game up. And it could be that tight again. I think it's one of them where it's going to be a little bit like United, where first goal really kind of dictates the sort of second half of the match. So I think the fact Arsenal would perceive themselves to be underdogs, the fact that they have had lots of success playing this back three against Liverpool, they played it obviously in the semi against City as well. I think they'll come in. I think they'll fancy themselves to match up and spoil the game. And they do unfortunately have the quality to hit us on the counter. Which, if there's one area of weakness with the Chelsea team in this system, is trying to defend those quick transitions. And with Aubameyang and Lacazette and Saka and whoever is going to be on the counter, that's the one little red flag that I have for them. But I think reading your article and listening to the pod, I think we're the better team. It's just a question of how Arsenal set up. If they're there to spoil, it's going to be quite a long day. But if we get an early goal, it changes the whole tone of the game. It's going to be that first goal is crucial.
Yeah, I think a really interesting game. Big game for both the managers. Their first real final, top level to win a cup. So I think it'll be really interesting. I think a lot will depend on how they decide to go for it and who's braver, really. Listen, that's what we've got time for this week. Obviously, those listening, FA Cup final is this Saturday. Chelsea versus Arsenal at Wembley. We will, as we have been consistently since the restart, be there with you guys on Discord. Keep your eye on the Chessy Hour Twitter for how exactly that's going to look, for any announcements about how we're going to be covering the Discord live on the game. If you are not part of our Discord community yet, make sure you jump onto that. There is plenty of opportunity to do so on the account. Keep an eye out for Chessy Hour on Discord. Also, last little call, if you do want to deep dive into article and podcast specifically for this FA Cup final, jump on the Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/Chessy Hour. Boys, been a pleasure as always. Jermaine, well done, mate. Thanks for the big acceptance speech. Well deserved. Yeah. And I'll see you hopefully next week with an FA Cup to talk about.
Cheers, guys.
Nice one, boys.
Bless you.
When I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.